Yeah, started. So again, yeah, like good morning everyone. So we'll be starting with our min and max program. And once we complete this, we'll move to the next programs. So the discussion where we left off was regarding average. Now, based on uh, functions which are provided by Python, there is no straightforward function which can give us the average of numbers. But the other way is like in order to get the average of numbers, it provides two other functions which if we used in concatenation will help us give the average. Now average is nothing but like we have to take a sum of all these numbers and divide it by number of like the count of numbers which are present in it. So if I add all these numbers and if I divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are five numbers present in it, so that gives me the average. So in order to get the average, just quickly, there is a sum function which is provided, and this sum over this number will do is give me the sum of this whole numbers, and if I divide it by length of numbers will give me the length of the numbers, that is the five numbers are present in this. So if I divide my sum by number of size of that numbers, it will give me the average. So yeah, looking using this formula we'll get the average, but there is no straightforward function like a mean or median function which we can use. There are other libraries which are provided by Python which will help you give directly median, then mean, max, all these additional features. But using the basic Python program, like without importing new packages or libraries, we can utilize this one. Okay, so this completes the min and max using inbuilt functions. Now what we'll do is without using inbuilt functions, how do we calculate min and max over this list of numbers? And for calculating this kind of min and max, we will have to utilize a for loop and a certain logic. So this logic will go off and we will keep all the same structure. Now the logic over here, what we'll be using is we will take two variables called as min and then max, where my min would be, let's take um, min would be like, let's take 100, which is the maximum, and max as 0, like the other way. Once we declare these two variables, then what we'll do is for every number in my list, which is in this nums, what I will do is I will try to check if my number is greater than, which is this first number, is it greater than my max? If it is greater than my max, what I should do is I should assign the new value of max as number. So now if you see here, my first number is 10. And what is my max? My max is 0. Now since my 10 is greater than 0, internally what I should do is I should assign this new value, like greater value of number, to this variable called as max, so that these two variables can be helped or like used for tracking what is the minimum and what is the maximum number. Now if we, since this condition is satisfied, like number is greater than your maximum number, that means you have found another number which is greater than your current maximum number. So since 10 is greater than 0, what I'll do is my max would be equal to 10. So this will happen in the first iteration. And this is your internal processing, what will happen. And this is your core logic, which we'll be doing. And the other one would be, now since we did a check for max, now what we'll do is we'll do a check for minimum also. If my number is lesser than minimum. So that means my number was 10, right? If my number is 10, and is it less than my minimum number? What is my minimum number? It is 100. So is my number less than minimum number? That means I have found a minimum number from this variable, which is like the minimum number. Now this minimum number is because we are just processing the first number. Now at the end of the list, after processing all the numbers, this two if loops will help us give like what is exactly min and what is the exactly max number. And if we come back to this minimum, since this condition is the other way of max, here we will be able to track is all the minimum numbers, and my minimum number is 10. So now if you see your minimum is switched from 100 to 10 and your max has been switched from 0 to 10. So that means minimum equal to number. So these two if loops will help us give the final result, like if you have is minimum number or a maximum number without using your inbuilt function. So if I do the same logic over here upper, so what I'll do is I will create two variables, min equal to 100, max equal to 0, and then I'll say for number in my numbers, if number is greater than max, if it is greater than my max becomes number, and if my number is less than my minimum number, so then my min becomes number. And after completing this for loop, I will get is the final min and max number. So max number is max, and then min number is minimum number is the minimum one. Now let's try to see if it is working or not by executing this program. So if I execute now, I'm getting the expected number, which is 100 is my max number and minimum number is 5. So this is the another approach without using inbuilt function provided by Python. But for the previous program, we directly used in a single function called as min and max, and using that we got the output. And over here, what we did was like our traditional method of using a for loop to try to find out what is the min and max by doing these kind of conditional checks using if loops. So this completes our min and max program. Let me save this. And once I save, we'll try to see what should be our next program now. Okay, so the next program, what we can do is in the similar lines, which will involve is like list of numbers. And what we'll do is we'll try to sort those numbers. Now, let's say I have is a numbers list and it contains all random numbers like 2, 4, 1, 3, and 5. So looking at these numbers, all these numbers are like randomly placed, right? Like there is no increasing or like a decreasing order. That means there is no ascending or descending order. So as part of our output, what we need to do is we need to reorder these numbers in ascending order so that my output is in this way called as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is my input and I need to sort these numbers in ascending order. That means I need to place these numbers in ascending order from minimum to maximum element. Now, how do we do it? So before when going there, let's write the program to arrange numbers in ascending order. So this is our goal for the program. Like we have this list of numbers and we need to arrange those numbers in ascending order. So let's create a function called as arrange numbers, and as part of input it is a list, so we'll pass the parameter of list. Then we'll create my list, which is nums equal to 2, 4, 1, 3, and 5, and then I will call this function, and here I will pass the numbers list. And now let's try if we're getting that list over here in the function or not. Now we are getting that function. So in order to sort this, like arranging these numbers, what we'll be using is an algorithm called as bubble sort algorithm. It is called as bubble sort algorithm. So now what is this bubble sort algorithm? Bubble sort algorithm is basically a mechanism which will do is try to take two numbers from your list at a time. Like it will take number 2 and 4 and it will try to compare, like if your first number is less than smaller number and if that condition satisfies, then it will not do anything. But if your first number is greater than second number, then it will swap the numbers. For example, if you take 4 and 1, here your first number, which is 4, is less than 1. It is false, right? It is actually greater than 1. So 4 is greater than 1. So what we'll be doing is it will swap that 4 and 1 to 1 comma 4. So this way it will internally keep on processing by taking two numbers at a time. So how it will take two numbers at a time? So let's take the list of number as 2, 4, 1, 3, and 5. So first time it will take 2 and 4, which are the first two numbers. And we will try to check if 2 is less than 4, it is true, right? So since this is true, we'll do is nothing, move ahead by one position. So move ahead by one position means what we'll be doing is we'll move to 4 comma 1. So initially we were taking is two numbers 2 and 4, and since the condition was true we have to do nothing. We'll be moving ahead by one position. So next time we'll be taking is 4 comma 1 as our numbers. So 4 comma 1 is the two numbers which we got. Now we'll try to check if 4 is less than 1. So this is false, right? Because 4 is greater than 1. So now since 4 is greater than 1, what we'll do is swap 1, like swap 4 comma 1. So what it will do is, since the ordering was 4 was coming first and 1 was coming next, it will do is it will place the number as 1 as first and 4 as second between these two positions itself, because we're taking these two positions and it is not going to consider these two and these 3 and 5. So all operation is happening at this position, which is 4 comma 1. So that is how this loop should work. Like the logic should work is if there is a false condition for us that number is less than 1, we should just swap these two numbers. And once we swap, then we'll do is move ahead by one position. So after completing 4 and 1, we'll be moving to the next one, which is 1 and 3. But now this time it won't be 1 and 3 because we previously swapped 4 and 1 as 1 and 4. So our numbers originally would be 4 comma 3 and not 1 comma 3 because of this operation, right? So what we'll get is 4 and 3 as our next iteration numbers. And then again we'll try to do is the check like is my 4 less than 3. Now again this is false. So what I should do is swap my 4 and 3. So if I swap 4 and 3, it will become 3 and 4. And once I swap it, I should move ahead by one position. So if you see this closely, what is happening is during our iteration, we are picking up the maximum number, which is 4 right now, which we identified, and trying to push it to the right hand side, right? Since we got like 4 in the first iteration, which was the maximum number, we're trying to push it, move it ahead and ahead. So that's how this 4 is coming in every loop now. Now the last operation, if you see, we will consider is these two last positions. But originally it was 3 comma 5. But now because of this swap, what we'll have is 4 comma 5. So the position would be 4 and 5. So we'll do the check is if my 4 is less than 5, this is true. So what I should do is nothing. And after nothing, I have to move ahead by one position. But if I move ahead by one position, I'm almost done. So since it is end, I'll do is nothing. So this one complete pass of these checks, what we did, these operations would be done once, and then we'll keep on doing for this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 5 times. So basically we'll be using these two for loops to loop over these numbers. And once we do all these 5 operations, the final output which we'll be getting would be in arranged order. So now how to do that? It's pretty straightforward. Like if I write the code, you'll understand like how it is working. So
Sir,
now, mhm.
let students guess it. Students, you try and tell to the sir what would be the logic exactly.
Any guess is fine. Like even though it is wrong, that is also fine. There is nothing to worry about.
Guys,
So
say
Sir, we can take a counter variable and compare it for different positions.
yeah, we can like do that also, but it will just partially work because of the counter. That counter variable would like work partially, but not completely. It will give us the answer. But yeah, like in one loop, it will help us give like this one, which I explained. If we take a counter variable and do it, then we can get the output only for the first iteration. But if you want like completely sorted like this in ascending order, then we can do it without even using the counter. So the logic which I explained over here of like doing this check, we have to just do it for like 5 times, 5 into 4, which is 20 times. So that's the actually algorithm which has been written in this bubble sort. So that's what the bubble sort algorithm is. That given a list of numbers and it contains like five numbers, right? So it needs is 5 into 5 minus 1 operations, which is 20 operations like this. And if we do this 20 operations, so since this was our like the operation which we did was just like this complete was like one operation. But if we do this like 20 operations like this consecutively after this, finally we'll be getting is the output. Now that's what the algorithm is. So going back to the implementation, how it will be is for since we want to do 20 iterations, we have to use this two loops. So the first loop would be we'll take two pointers, right? Because we were taking two numbers at a time. So for taking those two numbers, we'll need is two pointers. So for I in range, and I need is range from 0 comma length of numbers. So I'm taking this I, which will go through every element until my end of number. So length of number is going to be until this number 5. And then I will take another for loop inside this, which is j in range, and it will go from 0 to length of numbers. This will also go from here. Now we don't need to take it 0, it can work from I also, but just for our like easiness to understand or simplicity, we'll just keep it 0. So we know like these two loops are like identical and we're taking two pointers and assuming my first pointer is here and second pointer is here, I got the two numbers in my I and j. So what my I contains is 2 and j contains is 4. So this is what we got like 2 and 4 for a comparison. Now what we were saying is we'll compare now if my I is less than j and if it is true, then we'll do is nothing else, we'll swap. But now since I and j are basically indexes, right? Like because these are like indexes but not the numbers, we will provide is nums of I. So this nums of I will give us the internal number and not the indexes. Because if you remember, whenever we are using this range, it is usually referencing to the indexes of your list and not the actual number. So in order to get the actual number, what we use is nums of that index. So my index was 0. So nums of 0 would be 2. So that's what this 2 is. So now here we are comparing the two numbers. Nums of I is less than j. And if it is less than j, what we should do is basically nothing, right? Because it's already sorted. And if it is already sorted, we don't need to do anything, and we'll move ahead to the next operation. And the next operation was to swap it, right? Like when there was a false, what we wanted to do was swap. So now how do we do that swap? So swap would be we'll take a variable called as temp, and if I need to swap these two variables like 4 comma 1 as 1 comma 4, what I need to do is nums of I, then nums of I equal to nums of j, and then nums of j equal to temp. So we'll come to this swap logic once we know like our logic is working, and then we'll try to go into internal like how that swap is working. And that's how this whole algorithm should work. And finally, if we print the numbers, we should see the numbers are sorted which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So looking at this program, we are confirmed like the bubble sort logic which we understood here is working. Now we'll go more into detail now how it is working. Now there are two things which we took. Just for your information, I'm going right from the start to the end again so that everyone is understanding. So what we did was we took two for loops, and these two for loops will be doing is these iterations, like these operations. And this whole bunch of operations, like six operations which we did, is considered as one operation. And since we are using five, uh, like since five numbers are present, the first loop is going to run like five times, and second loop is also going to run five times. So 5 into 5 is 25. So ideally it is running 25 times, but technically we just need to run it 24 times to get the output. Now why it is running 25 times is because we took 0 over here as the start. But most of the time we can run it using the I over here and we can verify. But the reason why we didn't keep the I there was just for a clear understanding like it should work. So now if you see that I is doing in the reverse order, but just for a clear understanding, let's assume like it should be identical and it will take 25 operations. And during every operation, we'll take two numbers, which are these two numbers at a time, and we'll compare. Like if my first number is less than smaller number, if it is true, then I'll do nothing. But if my first number is not true, then I'll do is the swap. Now how this swap is working, I'll explain over here. Let's consider this nums of I equal to 1 and then nums of j equal to 4. Okay, so originally these numbers are placed like 1 and 4, and how my output should be 4 and 1. So what how we are going to do is we are taking a temporary variable, and in this variable we are storing is nums of I. So what is my temp going to contain is 1. Okay, what will happen on the next line? Next line, my nums of I, originally it was 1, and I'm replacing this 1 with nums of j, right? Nums of I equal to nums of j. So what is it? So it is 4. So here I'm overwriting my nums of I from 1 to 4. And then lastly, what is happening is nums of j, it was originally containing 4, but I'm replacing it with temp. So temp is 1. So if you look at this, nums of I was 1 and nums of j was 4. And later on, it got switched to nums of I equal to 4 and nums of j equal to 1. So that's how this swapping is working. And once we swap, that's how these internal numbers are flipped. Like 2 comma 4 is becoming 4 comma 2. And by end of the operation, we'll get the maximum number at the end. And that's how the iteration will keep on running. So this is a little bit complex for everyone to understand, but if you look at the program, it is easier to implement and understand also like to sort it. So this program is, so yeah, so this program is sorting the numbers in ascending order. Now, what is the way if you want to sort the number in descending orders?
सर एक डाउट था
Hmm.
सर नम्स ऑफ आई इज मोर देन नम्स ऑफ जे करेंगे तो भी सेम आउटपुट आएगा
No, yeah, that's what I was coming to. कि अभी तक हमने क्या किया कि असेंडिंग ऑर्डर किया था, like where keeping of this condition my numbers got sorted in ascending order. Now as you said, if we change this nums of I greater than nums of j, then my numbers over here will be in the descending order. If I run this, you'll see the numbers has changed from ascending to descending. So that's the only point I was coming to is if you want to sort your list in descending order, what we can do is we just need to change this sign, which is less than or equal to. If you want to sort in ascending, it should be less than, and run it. You'll get the ascending order. And if you want in descending order, just change it to greater than. So it will switch it to descending. So that is the only one change we'll need to sort in ascending or descending. So I hope like this is clear because it is little complex and this swap logic is also little bit tricky for first time to understand. But if you do practice, then you'll get along like how that works. So we can conclude our session now in terms of programs. So what I'll give you is a program for your homework, which we'll be mostly continuing next week. And let me think through like what the program can be. Yeah, like the program can be in like even and odd logic, which we did. So what you need to do is you need to write a program where let's say you have a list called as words, and in this list you have is characters instead of numbers, which is like this. So if you see here, we have is characters and not numbers. Now what you need to do is you need to tell the even count, or like you need to, instead of telling even count, right, like tell me like even characters present in it, like characters which contains even count. So if you take am, right, which is 2 in count, so this is even in count, but I is just counting 1, so this should be your output. Now since this am is the first even letter word, now we'll check this list, right? Now this list is your again even letter word, and the other ones are like your odd letter words, which is I, then A, then words. So this is your like words containing or having even size, and this is having words odd size. So basically you need to write a program to find words with even and odd length. Now you can achieve this all thing using or like referring to all the programs what you have done until now, because we did one program today for even and odd. It is in the similar lines. Only hint over there is you have to use the characters. Like you have to pick every character, like a word here, and try to see like if it is even length or odd length. And if it is even length, you need to add it to your odd list. And if it is odd length, sorry, if it is even length, you need to add to your even list. So this is your program for like next session. Um,
Okay.
okay, so that completes our today's session, and we'll continue in our next session. Any
Yes,
other
students, if you have doubts.
No, ma'am. No doubt.
No,
Okay.
ma'am, no doubt.
All right. Fine, sir. Then you can wind up. Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.